adventurers, do you want to travel like a pro? My name is Mahna Ghafori, a full-time world traveler who has traveled to over 33 countries, and in this video I'm going to share with you the top tips and tricks I've learned to travel like a pro. If you're as passionate about traveling and exploring as I am, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more travels and adventures from all over the world. So without further ado, let's get started. Tip number one is for US-based travelers, be sure to sign up for TSA PreCheck and Global Entry. This is absolutely life-saving as a frequent traveler. With TSA PreCheck, you don't have to take your shoes off, jacket off, you can leave your laptop and liquids in your bag, and it helps you absolutely breeze through the airport. And with Global Entry, it's amazing because once you land back in the United States from international travel, you can literally breeze through customs through a shorter and dedicated line. It's absolutely amazing and game-changing. $85 for a 5-year subscription, or a lot of travel credit cards also include this with your enrollment. I so strongly recommend it. Tip number two is pack light. Every single time I travel, like to do multiple rounds of packing. So I'll put a sort of wish list stack of all the things that I hope to take on my trip, and then I'll do rounds, like cuts of cutting those things, and typically, even from those things that I end up taking, how much of those do you normally wear? Especially for international travel or adventure travel focused trips, it is so life-saving when you pack as lightly as possible, because you're going to be going from airports to train stations to city centers, and just packing light really helps make your travel experience as great as possible. Another tip that I recommend for packing is to invest in packing cubes. This really helps me stay organized when putting things into my suitcase. So I have one cube dedicated to pants, one cube dedicated to tank tops, one cube dedicated to toiletries and things like that. And when you're going from place to place, especially for adventure travel type trips, it makes it so easy because each thing is in its compartment, and it just makes it really organized and efficient when you're on the go. Tip number three is to build airline loyalty and leverage travel credit cards. For example, I've been flying loyally with United Airlines for over 5 years now, and this has paid off in so many ways. As Premier Platinum status with United, I get access to amazing perks like upgrades to Economy Plus, First Class, access to Boarding Group 1, 3 checked bags, which I don't necessarily use because of my previous tip, and access to United Club lounges. This is just an example of being loyal to one airline for 5 years now. And it's really great because a lot of these airlines are part of alliance networks. So United is part of the Star Alliance network. So whenever I travel internationally, because of my United Premier Platinum status, I get access to Star Alliance Gold lounges all over the world. And it's honestly such an amazing hack to traveling. Some of these lounges, they have amazing food. Some of them have showers, great working and relaxation areas. Some of them have like sleeping pods. It's truly so amazing, and that is probably my biggest tip to traveling, is to sign up for airline loyalty and be as loyal with them as possible. Oh, and the number one thing that you get also is like free flights from the points that you accumulate. I have literally flown across the world from these points in just the past 5 years. It truly is so worth it. The next tip is to leverage travel credit cards. So the travel credit card that I use is the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, and this can also boost your travel experience. Some of the things that it offers, for example, is bonus points for travel related purchases, no foreign transaction fees. Some of them include travel insurance. I also on the side do strongly recommend Priority Pass. This also gives you access to so many airport lounges worldwide, which, like I mentioned earlier, really helps streamline and make amazing your travel experience. Tip number four is to pack flight essentials and have those with you. Some of my game changers when on the flight are an eye mask. Seriously, this helps so much. I hear from so many people that they're not able to sleep on flights. Eye masks help me so much, and a good set of noise canceling earbuds. So I use the Apple AirPods Pro. Nothing crazy, doesn't take any space, but that noise cancellation plus the eye mask helps me sleep on flights. Another tip that I also use is to bring chamomile tea. A lot of airlines only have black tea, but you can basically ask for hot water, put your chamomile tea, and be able to sleep during your flight. You can also have other essentials that you might want, like if you want a neck pillow, some snacks with you, if you don't necessarily like want the airline's food or want different things. I so strongly recommend that. It is game changing to be more comfortable on flights. Tip number 5 is to use AirTags or similar tracking devices. AirTags are seriously game changing. These are basically tiny little tags that you can purchase for like $25 from Target or Amazon or even the Apple store, and you just put them in your different bags when you travel. And this really helps, especially when, like last summer for example, a lot of the European airlines were really overwhelmed with the travel system. They were losing bags left and right. For example, one of my bags was lost, but I had an AirTag inside it, so I was actually able to tell the airline where my bag was and they were able to ship it to me. So I strongly recommend investing in little Apple AirTags and put those into your bags when you travel, because it really is game changing and helpful. What AirTags essentially let you do is see the last known location of your device that the AirTag was in case it gets lost or stolen or left behind, and you're basically able to track it with your Apple iPhone and go and get that device back. Tip number 6 is to keep your valuables on your person at all times. Places like cars aren't even safe these days. Car break-ins happen all the time, especially in really popular tourist destinations. So I strongly recommend having your valuables on your person at all times. So for example, I keep my camera gear, passport, and phone on my person. I love traveling with a fanny pack. So for example, this is a fanny pack that I recently picked up from Uniqlo. You can get the Lululemon ones. So many brands have come out with fanny packs these days. And it's so handy because you can basically wear it like right here in front of you. And what I like to do when walking through these really popular tourist places as well is to literally have a phone over the zipper. Like at all times, be aware of your bag, because it is very, very common for phone theft to happen to tourists in international destinations, because you're more likely coming from somewhere from home where you feel safe walking around on the streets with your phone just like out and about. But trust me, after traveling to 33 countries, safe, unsafe areas, these are the hacks that I found to keep my phone safe. This phone loop, and then this is from Moment, but you can get one off of Amazon. And then this little pop socket right here, truly game changing. Every time I travel somewhere and someone sees me with this, they're like, wow, that is so smart. That must give so much peace of mind. It's also really helpful for taking like pictures over a waterfall or over a bridge, because you have that peace of mind that like, oh, your $1,000 iPhone isn't gonna fall into the water, but you can still get the shot that you want. So that is a pro tip that I recommend. The other thing that I recommend is to be mindful of your surroundings when traveling. Especially as a solo female traveler, I have learned some extra tips for how to be mindful of my surroundings. But basically the biggest one that it comes down to is trust your gut instinct. Try to research the place that you're going to, if it is safe for females or people to walk around late at night. If not, I recommend going with a group or paying a little bit extra for an Uber or taxi to get you from point A to point B. And really it just comes down to trusting your instinct. Tip number 7 is to research. So I read a study one time that the act of getting excited for a trip was more fun and exciting for people sometimes than actually being on the trip. It was so interesting, but you know that feeling where you're just like, oh my gosh, my trip to Bali is coming up in 4 months. I'm so excited. Like that act of researching and getting excited for it is so good for you as well, because it gives you something to look forward to. And so what I recommend doing is doing some homework, researching the best possible must-see experiences that you want to make sure to include when you go to your trip. But something that I strongly recommend as well is researching the weather patterns and building in flexibility to your itinerary. So personally, what I like to do when building an itinerary for my trip is having a few of those must-see, must-do things. If they're things that you have to book, I will book them. But the rest of the trip, I include possible options that I could do, but I don't necessarily like nail in my itinerary like this is what I'm doing every moment of the day. I love this flexibility that it provides for my personal style of travel, of if it's something like weather dependent, if I'm a little bit tired or more excited this day, then I can be flexible with my trip. And so I identify must-do experiences. Next, create a list of potential experiences. And third, embrace spontaneity. So leave some room in your travel schedule for the spontaneous to come up. Maybe you talk to a local or you talk to another traveler and they're going to an epic mountain or an awesome bar that you want to check out as well. Create that flexibility for yourself in your schedule, and honestly I find that those spontaneous moments, the ones that you didn't plan, are the ones that are the most magical. practical. So by doing your research beforehand and being prepared, but also leaving room to embrace spontaneity, I've found that is the wonderful balance of creating an amazing trip for yourself. So you're able to do things that you really want to do, but you also leave a little bit of room for that magic. Tip number 8 is to find a way to stay connected if you want to. If you're going on like a backpacking trip or a 10-day silent retreat, maybe totally disregard this because the purpose of your trip is to unplug. But for trips to other places, like for example, I just traveled to Japan, and having an internet connection was basically necessary to be able to travel throughout the country. And so some of the options for staying connected when you're traveling, and for things like staying connected to people at home, sending people your location, or even navigating within the country, this is why it's helpful. So first thing that you can do is to get a local SIM card. You can typically get this when you land at the airport or anywhere in the city. This will probably be the cheapest option, and the one thing that it does though is that sometimes it'll change your number, so it'll give you a local number. So I personally don't do this anymore, but this is a great option that is available for having internet connection when you travel to a new country. The second thing I recommend is an international data plan. So if you prefer to keep your home number while traveling, and it's honestly like easier and more efficient, I recommend getting an international data plan that builds onto your existing phone plan. And so many providers offer international temporary plans that you can build into your current plan. When I did my world trip, I traveled with Google Fi and I loved it. It is a little bit more expensive of a plan, but anywhere that I traveled and landed in the world, I immediately had cell phone coverage, which was mind-blowing and game-changing. Basically what it does is it connects to the local cell tower of where you're landing. So anywhere from Fiji to the bottom of the earth in Patagonia to Bali, I would just land, take my phone off airplane mode, and I was connected. So I do recommend Google Fi if you're doing an international travel, like back-to-back type thing, many different countries. Or another option, I recently switched back to T-Mobile. T-Mobile offers great perks. For example, with United Airlines, I just put in my phone number and I have Wi-Fi on all of my flights, which is great for getting some work done or just like streaming and browsing the web on the flight. And also it offers international plans that when you land in a different destination, you can get like a 7-day pass, or it has some like low speed passes if you don't necessarily need all the internet. This is really game-changing because things like having Google Maps, Google Translate, in a place like Japan, like real-time updates for train schedules, or being able to decipher different menus. Like a lot of the time the menus were only in Japanese, so I'd have to use the Google Translate feature where you can take a photo of the menu and it'll translate every word of it into your native language, into English for you. And so I strongly recommend looking into one of these options to make your travel experience more streamlined and efficient. Oh, and the third option is to look into portable Wi-Fi devices. So these are little personal pocket hotspots that you can get, and these will basically be like moving Wi-Fi. So you can take this little, I think it's called Wi-Fi or MiFi. I did this once in Iceland on a road trip I went on, and it was so cool. This little thing was just like giving internet access all throughout Iceland, and it came with the car rental company. So portable Wi-Fi devices that's also something that I would recommend looking into. Tip number 9 is to embrace flexibility. As a full-time traveler, I can tell you that probably the #1 lesson that you learn from traveling is how to be a flexible and go with the flow person. You can be the most organized person on earth, plan every single detail, book every single thing, set it all into your paper, and no matter what, a bird will hit one of the turbines of the engine and your flight will be cancelled. Or New Zealand almost doesn't let you book your flight because there was an issue in between something with your COVID test. All things that have happened to me in the past year. And so you could be a very organized person, but that doesn't matter because travel and the universe or God or whatever you believe in will teach you a lesson through travel, and that is the act of being flexible and going with the flow. And so embrace that spontaneity, and maybe even in between those moments of where you thought this had to happen is where the magic happens. And so what I like to do during those times is to have a book, a podcast, an Audible book that I can listen to, or just like the internet connection, like I said earlier, to catch up on some work and really just embrace that spontaneity and flexibility, because I promise you, staying open-minded, staying positive, and not reacting. So this is another point that I really want to like nail home, is please be nice to the airline attendants, flight attendants, anyone working there when there's a delay. those people are not the cause of the delay more often than not. So being kind to people will really go a long way. It's a great opportunity to embrace that flexibility and unpredictability of travel and really just building it into your travel schedule, because I can almost promise you it will happen. But it is a great learning opportunity. Number 10 is to immerse yourself in the local culture. This is one of the most rewarding parts of travel. As someone who looks racially ambiguous, it's really fun for me to go to new places and try to sort of dress like the locals so I blend in and really just try to experience the magic of the local life. Something else that goes a really long way is to try to learn a few key phrases in the local language. Things like hello, thank you, and how are you can really go a long way. Locals love to see when you're trying to learn their language, and more often than not will be very willing to help you just from those simple things. Like you say hello in their local language, or you say arigato in like Japanese, and they're like, oh wow, they're trying to learn. And so that also can lead to local recommendations where you'll experience some magic beyond the tourist beaten path of your trip and really create those memorable travel experiences. But I strongly recommend building in time for getting to know the local culture when you travel. So that's going to local restaurants, going to small boutiques that are family owned, and really trying to learn about the local culture when you travel. By immersing in the local culture, you'll gain a deeper appreciation for the places that you travel to, and honestly really feel like you're a local in that place. It is really special, and I strongly recommend this. And there we have it. Those are my top 10 tips to travel like a pro. I hope it helps you on your next trip. Travel is honestly one of the most magical experiences. It is my passion, it is my hobby, and now it is my profession. And I really hope these tips help you travel and experience the magic of the world and really see that we are not all different. We are all the same. All our human needs are the same. And even if you don't speak the same language as someone, like my smile has literally helped me connect with people from around the world and experience magic in different corners of the earth just from being kind, just from smiling and seeing everyone as like a brother or sister, because that's really what we are. We're all human beings of the human race, and so that's a huge lesson that travel teaches you. And so be open-minded, get out there. I'm so excited for you, and here's to living your most extraordinary life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.